Okay, welcome everyone. This is the Redbridge Science channel, and today we're going to be looking at a reaction called a precipitation reaction. The learning objective is, can I explain what happens to the atoms during a precipitation reaction? Okay, so the reaction today is going to be between two compounds. We've got copper sulfate and sodium hydroxide. And I'm using Lego bricks to model those compounds. So first of all, copper sulfate. So copper sulfate is this lovely blue colour, and it's made out of three elements that have combined, joined together chemically. Okay, we have an atom of copper, which I'm representing with a blue Lego brick. We have an atom of sulfur, which I'm representing with a yellow brick, and we have four oxygen atoms, which are the four red bricks. Okay, so copper sulfate, three elements, copper, sulfur and oxygen, all chemically joined together. The other compound that I'm using is called sodium hydroxide. This is a very unpleasant alkali, and sodium hydroxide is a clear colour, so it just looks like water. And it's made of three elements. We have sodium, which I'm representing with a black Lego brick, oxygen with the red Lego brick, and hydrogen with the white brick. So sodium hydroxide, sodium, oxygen, hydrogen, all chemically joined together. Okay, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to be wearing my goggles for this one, and onto the balance I'm going to put a beaker with two test tubes. It's going to make sure that the balance is zeroed at the beginning. Put those onto there, and I'm going to pour a little bit of sodium hydroxide into one of these test tubes. And some copper sulfate into the other tube. And hopefully you can see that the balance is displaying 85.1 grams. 85.1 grams. So I'm now going to react the two together, and what you will see is a precipitation reaction. Okay? And hopefully you will be able to see that we have what appears to be a solid. It kind of looks like soggy cotton wool, and it's a nice dark blue colour. But we've also got some liquid that is not, some clear liquid. So a precipitate is a solid that you get when you mix together or react together two solutions, and we had two solutions at the beginning. And we've now got a solid. That is called the precipitate. But I'm going to put everything back on the balance. So let's have a look. Everything back in. It was 85.1 grams. And it still says 85.1 grams. So have a think about what that means. Have we lost anything from the reaction? I wonder, was a gas being made and released out of the top of the tube? Well, it doesn't appear so, because it hasn't got lighter. Have I added anything extra in there on the slide? No, because it hasn't got any heavier. So the mass is exactly the same, and this is called the conservation of mass. The mass has been saved. And the reason is because of what's happened to the atoms during that reaction. The copper sulfate and the sodium hydroxide, all that has happened when you react them together is that this copper atom has switched places with this sodium atom. And so we now have got two different compounds, but we've got exactly the same number of atoms. All they've done is switch positions. The two metals have switched. The copper has come across here, and the sodium has come across to here. So I wonder whether you are now able to tell me the names of our two products. Okay, so the first product is now called copper hydroxide, this one here. Copper hydroxide, a copper atom, a hydrogen atom and an oxygen atom all joined together. And the second product is now called sodium sulfate. Sodium atom joined to a sulfur atom joined to the 4 oxygen atoms. So hopefully you can see that they've literally just switched places. The copper atom and the sodium atom have switched. But I've got the same total number of atoms on the right of the equation as I had at the start on the left, which is why the mass does not change. So the only thing left now really is to decide, well, which of these two is the copper hydroxide and which is the sodium sulfate. And at the bottom here, okay, I've labelled it up. Don't worry too much about this formula equation, that might make your head explode. But the dark blue solid precipitate is this one, it's the copper hydroxide. Okay, so copper hydroxide is this dark blue one, and the clear or very pale blue liquid is called sodium sulfate. Okay, so this is the copper hydroxide, whereas this and this bit in here is the sodium sulfate. So we have two things there, precipitation reaction. Okay, precipitate is when you get a solid by reacting together two solutions, and the conservation of mass, the idea that the mass doesn't change in this example because all the atoms have done is switched their positions. Nothing was added, nothing was released, they literally just changed positions. Okay, thank you everyone.